The USAID Feed the Future funded Nigerian Agribusiness Investment Activity has supported agribusiness SMEs by facilitating access to finance and investment. We do this by helping these agribusinesses meet the selection criteria of lenders and investors. We build their capacities with targeted trainings which focus on enterprise development, business management, group dynamics, financial literacy, and record keeping. We've also had to train these SME agribusinesses on good agricultural practices. We also support agribusinesses that require organizational improvement by conducting, firstly, an organizational performance improvement needs assessment, in which we will then provide targeted interventions related to leadership development, innovations, and good manufacturing practices. Agribusiness is the largest non-oil sector of Nigerian economy, contributing 24% of the GDP and employs two-thirds of the country's labor force. Small and medium agribusinesses, including smallholder farmers, are the bedrock of Nigeria's agricultural economy, but they are locked into underperformance due to constraints in accessing finance and investment, technical assistance, poor enabling environment. Therefore, our activity focuses on strengthening small and medium scale agribusinesses to improve production and processing practices and significantly increase finance and investment flows, which will in turn increase the competitiveness and profitability of these agribusinesses. During the first 18 months of the USAID Feed the Future funded Nigerian Agribusiness Investment Activity, the team facilitated $6.2 million in loans and $35.3 million in investment. Now, these loans comprise of 294 loans to smallholder farmers through government-subsidized single-digit intervention funds, 3 commercial and development bank loans from within and abroad to SME agribusinesses, and 3 investments coming primarily from overseas DFIs and corporate foundations. Through our gap and loan readiness training, which is a major requirement to qualify for government subsidized interventions loans, we have reduced the barriers for more than 4,000 members of farmer organizations and more than 200 agribusiness SMEs seeking finance from the Nigerian government intervention programs. The value and volume of this year's loans, both dry and wet seasons, are currently being tallied and also being processed, and they're going to be running into millions of dollars. One major suggestion regarding program design and implementation is to factor in sustainability measures and collaboration with a broad cross section of stakeholders. Most of the time, we see different development partners working with the same set of people across the same geographies. We also see that SMEs are used to receiving grants as well as training at no cost. In fact, these days, many farmers and agribusinesses expect to be paid to come for trainings. We do not subscribe to this mentality. Our program interventions in delivering technical assistance are focused on leverage, with contributions expected from the beneficiaries as well as the organizers. Hence, our target audience tend to be more established SMEs that understand the value of training and technical assistance, as well as the liability and commitment to repay loans. The best case scenario is to work as a consortium with several parties sharing the risk. For example, the banks, the credit guarantees, capacity building support, and creating commercially viable business linkages between producers and off-takers and other service providers. The main pillars of our approach have been to provide trainings to the banks and investors on how to improve their outreach in the agricultural sector, properly evaluate agribusinesses, and mitigate the risk in value chain financing. You will agree with me that this is a major gap between financial institutions and agribusinesses. So similarly, the activity works with prospective borrowers and investors in helping and investees in helping them understand and meet the selection criteria of the lenders and investors. The overall philosophy is to serve as a bridge to ensure that each party's expectations are clearly met, as well as to de-risk or at least mitigate the real and perceived risks of the transaction for both parties. Where we feel there is a great opportunity for the organized agribusiness private sector to move beyond CSR is to consider their support as part of their core business. Having a rice processor contribute to a nearby school or church is, of course, most welcome, but to grow that budget and really make a lasting impact, it might be better for them to focus on building the capacity of their outgoers with emphasis on the engagement of women and youth across their business and value chain, or build a local storage for the aggregation of commodities. To ensure scale up and sustainability of the activities interventions, the activity works through lead firms, through lead agribusinesses, and employs a value chain development approach to facilitate new lending and investment along with agribusiness performance improvement training. This helps to build the awareness, interest, capacity, and commitment of the agribusiness partners, producer groups, financial institutions, and other private sector partners to scale the intervention beyond the duration of the activity. We also expect that the business linkages we are creating will remain in place and expand long after our activity is ended. In this sense, we are focused on establishing relationship built on mutual respect, trust, and opportunity. Another aspect of scale, which implies increased investment by the stakeholders, is for the government at the federal as well as the state level to create a more conducive and inclusive environment, enabling environment. This forms the basis of market confidence. Age-old issues regarding access to land clearing, power, water, road infrastructure, extension services, timely delivery of the right inputs, access to affordable finance, utilization of structured transactions in Movable Assets Act, allowing banks to accept movable collateral, and incorporating commodity trading and agricultural backed paper into Nigerian capital market, which will yet add an avenue for firms to raise capital, are only some of the elements that need to be put in place for the private sector to efficiently, effectively, and sustainably scale up to meet market demand. Therein, as Nigeria has many well written policies, the main issue is around having a defined plan and sufficient resources, which includes human and capital, for implementation. Lastly, in terms of a more integrated approach to agricultural development, it might be advisable to appoint a high-level government representative to be in charge of coordinating the various and numerous donor and foundation-funded projects, programs, and activities within the country. While each party certainly has a good intention, the level of overlap as well as the level of coordination and thus leverage significantly undermines the impact achieved. To us, the key need and opportunity is alignment of the development community towards a distinct set of objectives that further align with the government's top strategic priorities. It is evident that the spread of the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic continues to pose health challenges and disrupt economic and agricultural activities, supply chains, which in turn threatens Nigeria's food and national nutritional security, employment, and economy. Interestingly, this underscores the relevance of the USAID Feed the Future Nigeria Agribusiness Investment Activity to increase the productivity, competitiveness, and resilience of agribusinesses by strengthening the enabling environment for agribusinesses and facilitating more finance and investment into the sector. The disruptions caused by the pandemic on existing agribusiness portfolios with commercial lenders had resulted in a reduction in new lending and a focus on restructuring their portfolios to reduce risk. To maintain our productivity, giving government enforced restrictions and public health measures to prevent the spread of the virus. The activity has successfully utilized a variety of virtual online meeting platforms to communicate with our main partners and stakeholders, as well as deliver webinars, business clinics, public private dialogues, and more remote engagement. On those occasions where smaller gatherings are still taking place at the state level, we strictly follow the NCDC guidelines and protocols, including the provision of face masks, hand washers, hand sanitizers, and other PPEs to all our participants. Lastly, we have also enabled and equipped all our staff to work remotely and work from home to further protect them.